May 31, 1962. Just past midnight. In a sterile Israeli prison cell, the trapdoor opens. Adolf Eichmann, the architect of the Holocaust, falls. His body is cremated. His ashes are scattered at sea, beyond any national waters. A deliberate, clinical end, designed to leave no grave, no shrine, no physical trace for the faithful to gather around. The ultimate act of erasure. Justice was served. The story the world believed was over. But stories don't end with the closing of a file. They live on in the silence that follows, and in the hearts of those left behind. Adolf Eichmann left 4 sons. Within months of watching their father hanged, 3 of them were not in mourning. They were in a Buenos Aires apartment building bombs. They were drafting plans to attack a school bus full of Jewish children. The man who orchestrated the trains to Auschwitz had raised sons who wanted to bomb the buses to Hebrew school. This is not a story about one monster's death. This is a story about an ideology's terrifying afterlife, and how a family, marked by the most infamous name of the 20th century, became the living, breathing proof that evil doesn't die. It simply gets passed down. Before we trace how the Eichmann sons went from fugitive children to radicalized terrorists, understand this: Nazism did not survive in spite of Nuremberg and Eichmann's trial. In some ways, it survived because of them. The trial created a martyr. The execution created a cause. And the sons were its most willing soldiers. To understand the radicalization, you must first see the world they were raised in. It was not a world of shame, but of twisted pride. After escaping Europe through Vatican ratlins, Adolf Eichmann didn't cower in a shack in Patagonia. He settled in Buenos Aires, a city teeming with former SS officers and Nazi sympathizers. He got a job at Mercedes-Benz. He attended community gatherings. He lived, audaciously, as Ricardo Clement, a bland alias for a man with the most recognizable face. On Interpol's wanted list. By 1952, he felt secure enough to send for his family. His wife, Vera, and their 4 sons, Klaus, Horst, Dieter, and the toddler Ricardo, joined him. And here is the first, breathtaking act of normalization. The boys did not use the alias Clement. They enrolled in school under their real name, Eichmann. Imagine it: Klaus Eichmann, age 10, introducing himself to his Argentine teacher. Horst Eichmann, 8, making friends on the playground. They carried the surname of the world's most wanted war criminal like a standard, because in their insulated German expat bubble it was a standard, a mark of distinction. Their father was not a pariah in this world. He was a respected elder, a man of importance. The crimes he whispered about were not atrocities. They were a noble, if misunderstood, national project. The boys absorbed a single, corrosive lesson. What the world calls genocide, we call duty. What they call evil, we call pride. For nearly a decade, this echo chamber held. It was a childhood built on a foundation of lies so complete they felt like truth. Then a teenage romance shattered it all. The eldest, Klaus, inherited his father's sense of invincibility. In the late 1950s, he began dating Sylvia Hermann, a sweet-natured girl in their community. Eager to impress her, Klaus was invited to dinner at her home. What Klaus did not know, what his arrogance blinded him to, was that Sylvia's father, Lothar Hermann, was a blind German-Jewish Holocaust survivor. He had been beaten by Nazi thugs, losing his sight, before escaping to Argentina. As the family ate, Klaus held forth. He spoke of his father not as Ricardo Clement, but as the important official he truly was. He boasted of his father's role, his rank, his significance in the great work of the Reich. He was, in essence, confessing his father's identity to a victim of his father's system. Lothar Hermann sat silently, listening. He needed no eyes to recognize the sound of unrepentant evil. Aries. Police surveillance revealed. Swastika flags flying from their home windows. Horst wearing a Nazi armband indoors. An arsenal of homemade bombs, guns, and propaganda. Plans to bomb a Jewish school bus. The symbolism was grotesque. The sons of the man who systematized the transportation of millions to death were now plotting to murder children on their way to school. It was not just admiration. It was a vow to continue the work. When arrested, their punishment was shockingly light. Horst served about 2 years. Klaus was released for lack of evidence. They walked away, unrepentant. Their ideology had survived its first brush with justice and been strengthened by it. But there was a fourth son, Ricardo. He was only 5 when his father was kidnapped. His memories were not of a powerful father, but of a defendant in a glass box, and then an executed criminal. Raised by a silent, grieving mother in Germany, Ricardo chose a different path. Oblivion through academia. He earned a doctorate in archaeology, eventually becoming director of the Orient Department at Berlin's German Archaeological Institute. He buried himself in the ancient past, building a wall of scholarship between himself and his horrific inheritance. In 1995, he broke his silence in an Israeli newspaper interview. "I am happy the trial and sentence took place. I have no connection to my father. He was the sole dissenter, the living proof that escape was possible." The fates of the Eichmann brothers are a chilling parable of complicity and choice. Klaus died in 2015 in Germany, unrepentant, his Alzheimer's erasing everything but, seemingly, his core beliefs. Horst died the same year in Buenos Aires, surrounded by swastika flags, his mistress confirming he died a strong Nazi. Dieter chose lifelong, enigmatic silence. He reportedly still lives in Buenos Aires, a block from where his father was taken, a monument to willful ambiguity. Ricardo retired in 2020. He is the monument to the difficult. After Klaus left, Hermann contacted Israeli intelligence. The tip was vague but chilling. Look at Ricardo Clement. Mossad's operation was patient, meticulous. For weeks, agents surveilled Clement. They needed irrefutable proof. The confirmation came not through a slip of the tongue, but a gesture of the heart. On March 21, 1960, agents watched Eichmann arrive home with a bouquet of flowers for his wife. The date was significant. It was the Eichmanns' 25th wedding anniversary. Ricardo Clement had just celebrated a milestone that belonged only to Adolf Eichmann and Vera Liebel. 7 weeks later, on a darkened street in San Fernando, Mossad agents sprung. Eichmann was bundled into a car. In a stunning legal misstep, his wife, Vera, filed a complaint that explicitly stated Ricardo Clement was her husband, Adolf Eichmann. In trying to save him, she legally confirmed his identity to the world. The Jerusalem trial, 1961, was a global spectacle. For the first time, Holocaust survivors testified not before victorious generals, but before the descendants of the victims. Eichmann sat in his glass booth, the bland desk murderer exposed. He was found guilty on all counts. The family submitted a joint plea for clemency. It was denied, but Israel granted one extraordinary concession. Vera was allowed a final, secret visit. Under strict conditions, 24 hours, immediate departure, she was led to his cell in Ramla prison. No guards listened. No record exists. What did she say to the architect of the Holocaust in his final hours? Encouragement? Love? Regret? She took the secret to her grave. On May 31, 1962, he was hanged. His ashes were scattered in the Mediterranean. A full stop, or so they thought. What happened next defies all logical expectation. Grief did not humble the Eichmann brothers. It radicalized them. While the world saw the end of a monster, Klaus, Horst, and Dieter saw the martyrdom of a hero. Within months, Klaus and Horst had formed a neo-Nazi cell in Buenos. Lonely path of rejection. Vera Eichmann died in 1997, having never publicly acknowledged her husband's crimes. The family she raised became the shrine Israel tried to prevent. Israel succeeded in denying Eichmann a physical grave. But his family proves a terrifying, universal truth. Ideas are harder to scatter than ashes. Hatred is an heirloom. It is passed down through dinner table stories recast as heroism. Through the bragging of a son to his girlfriend. Through flags hung in a living room, long after the war is supposed to have ended. The Eichmann saga is not a historical postscript. It is a warning. It shows that the machinery of genocide doesn't just vanish when the architect is gone. It idles, waiting for new operators, often those who loved him most. It shows that moral reckoning is not automatic, even for those closest to the crime. It is a conscious, painful, and tragically rare choice. The final lesson of Adolf Eichmann is this: you can execute a man. You can scatter his ashes to the winds. But you cannot execute an idea. Only people can do that. And as 3 of his sons proved, sometimes they choose to reload it instead. History doesn't end. It echoes. Subscribe for more investigations into the chilling afterlives of history's darkest chapters.